Yet more FUD. The grid can't handle it if we all transition over to EVs. So, who are you going to call?
FUD Busters.
So, can the grid handle all the EVs? Let's say we all changed over to EVs today. We need to look at some numbers. In March 2021, the number of cars on the road was just over 17 million in Australia. So let's say that's gone up to 18 million cars, because by December 2021, last year it had increased by about 1 million. Now, the average distance travelled by an Australian passenger vehicle was just over 12,500 kilometres for the year 2018. So let's make that 15,000 kilometres for 2021, which is almost 9,500 miles. Now we've got to do some mathematics. Very simple mathematics. This means that around a total of 270,000 million kilometres were travelled, or about 170,000 million miles in Australia, multiplying 18 million by 15,000. EVs currently do anything from 120 watt hours per kilometre up to 250 watt hours per kilometre or higher. So that's 12 kilowatts per 100k or 25 kilowatts per 100k. So let's take a figure somewhere between those two at 200 watt hours per kilometre or 20 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometres. If you want that in your miles per gallon equivalent for America, it's around about 100 miles per gallon equivalent. I could be wrong on that. Someone can correct me. So now let's calculate the total energy used in Australia if everyone today was driving their EV for the year. That's 270,000 million kilometres at 20 kilowatts per 100 kilometres. So the total kilowatt hours of power consumed is 270,000 million times by 20 divided by 100. So that is 54,000 million kilowatt hours or 54 terawatt hours. Sounds quite a lot, doesn't it? Now, according to energy.gov.au, which is the government website, the total electricity generation in Australia for 2019 to 2020 was a fairly steady rate of 265 terawatt hours. If we go back 20 years, the amount of energy produced in Australia was around 200 terawatt hours. So in the last 20 years, our production has increased by more than could have been used by EVs in total last year. If we go back to 1980, another 20 years ago, it was only just over 90 terawatt hours. So the 20 years from 80 to 2000, we increased production by a factor of more than 2x, and from 20 to 22 by a factor of almost 1.5x. So to increase energy production by enough to cover all vehicles being EVs, we just need to increase production from now by 20%. As of the 31st of January 2022, there were 1.395 million solar and heat pump water heaters in Australia, 424 wind systems, 20 hydro systems, and over 3 million solar panel systems, and more than 4.4 million small-scale renewable installations. And that doesn't cover battery storage. And these numbers are increasing every day in Australia. We've got a large amount of sunshine, and Perth is one of the third or fourth windiest city in the world. Geraldton, which is north of Perth, is a bit windier. And up in the Pilbara, which is in the northern part of Western Australia, the wind blows very hard and much harder than it does during the day at night, which is when the sun don't shine. So you can use wind power during the night and solar panels during the day. So it's not a stretch to see that as we gradually increase the number of EVs, remember, it's not going to happen all of a sudden tomorrow, the grid will expand faster, so won't be affected. Now, if we take a single household with an electric vehicle, travelling the average distance of, say, 15,000 kilometres each year, that works out to about 41 kilometres per day on average. If you've got an efficient EV using 12 kilowatts per 100k, you will only need about 5 kilowatt hours of that power to power the car. An inefficient EV using 250, it would need closer to 10 kilowatt hours of power. A solar PV installation of 6.6 kilowatts with a 5 kilowatt inverter, which is becoming the standard now, will provide over 40 kilowatt hours of power every day during the summer, and about half of that, or 20 kilowatt hours, during the winter. It's averaging out to be about 30 kilowatt hours of power each and every day of the year. So let's take a look at my setup. I've got a 6.6 kilowatt system, and over 2021 it produced a total of just over 11 megawatts, which equates to an average of 30 kilowatt hours per day. The year before, it was actually a little bit more than that. So that's give or take 30 kilowatt hours of power being generated on my roof for my house, my home batteries, and export to the grid. My car is a Tesla Model 3 rear wheel drive. And since its purchase, which is almost 2.5 years ago, and I've done about 60,000 Ks, it's averaging 14.2 kilowatt hours per 100K, or 142 watt hours per K. So if I just use my solar panels, I could travel over 200 kilometers every day just from the sun. Free power. Now let's assume that we're looking at all new car sales being EVs by 2030, which is actually planned in some countries. In Australia, they've got no fucking idea what they're doing at the moment. But even if we suddenly set a target of 2030, we've got 8 years of steady increase in power generation to keep up. And with the number of rooftop solar panels being put up on each household, we'll more than have enough power for people to power their own cars by then. Remember, we're not all going to plug in our EVs at the same time, just as we all don't turn up to the petrol or gas station at the same time to fill up. In addition, the suppliers of the electricity have different rates for different times of day, and that encourages better usage when the demands are low. So for me at my home, I've got an EV tariff. So between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m, I save about 30% on the cost of the power from during the day. You can get different ones where it's even lower. So let's have a quick look at, say, Norway, where they've got around 75% of new vehicles sold are electric, and their power consumption has only increased 30% since 1990, which is not a dramatic increase despite the number of EVs now on the road. And that power increase can be explained away more by the population increase than anything else, as the per capita energy consumption there really hasn't changed a whole heap. And as a final little bit of additional information, in Australia, 2020, 24% of the total energy production was from renewables, which had increased from the year before, 2019, where it was only 21%. So we've got more than enough supply to power EVs, so there's absolutely no need to worry about it. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you found this helpful in busting some FUD. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and it'll help other people find this important information. Thank you.